Hello, everyone. I would like to thank you for joining us for the Accounting 223 Getting Started webinar. My name is Jacob Harney, Instructional Designer for IvyOnline and Project Manager for the most recent development of Accounting 223 for IvyOnline. Accounting 223 just underwent a major redevelopment to bring it into the statewide online program this semester for the summer 2021 semester. We're going to be taking this time to look at the new course and then get a good impression of how you can get started. Joining me today are Courtney from Gleim, who will be demonstrating how you'll go about using the Gleim platform for this semester and answer any questions afterward about that. And we also have our course mentor and developer, Kathy, on the line, who will walk you through the course and will answer any questions in post that you might have about delivering this course. If there are any comments or questions, feel free to post them in the chat or use the raise hand feature to let us know that you would like to ask a question. Next, I'm going to have Courtney take over and then show us a little bit about Gleim to help you get started. I will stop sharing so you can take over.
Thank you. As Jacob mentioned, my name is Courtney Sefjack. I'm one of the professor relation coordinators here with Gleim. I've been working with Kathy for the past couple of years to provide access to our online academic platform for the EA review used in the Accounting 223 class there. And so, as Jacob mentioned, I thought it would be helpful to go through some of those features today and see how we can get those courses set up. So first and foremost, I should say that requesting access to either demos of the course or to access the course at all, as far as professors go, those requests are done through me, and I can always provide my contact information. I'll actually type it in the chat so that you have it. But to get the course up and functioning and running, I also create a special order link that you then give to the students so that they can order directly through Gleim. Professors and students will both log in through the Gleim platform itself. So let me show you what I mean by that, because it does operate outside of some of the other traditional platforms like a Canvas or a Moodle or a Blackboard. So students will have their own login, professors will all have their own login, and they'll be able to do that here at gleim.com. You'll be able to log in the top right-hand corner here with your email and password. And if you're like me, I have to save them all, which I know is terrible. But once you've got your password and your account created, it's really simple with logging in. We put you into what we call your personal classroom or your dashboard here. And it's important to note that we have a P-led or Access Professor-led link and then a Start course. So what's nice about the EA Premium system and the academic platform is that the academic platform for the class is active for 6 months or the length of a typical semester. And students and professors will access that here under the Access P-led courses. So that's definitely important. That makes sure that you gain access to the platform so that you can see any assignments as far as students go from the professors. And obviously for professors, that's where you create your assignments. That's where you access grades. That's where everything is housed. At the end of the semester, should students need additional time to pursue their EA studies, this platform goes away and they're left here with our Start course, which is our self-study program. So they'll still have access to all of the online materials, including the instructor videos, the flashcards, the adaptive course. They'll have their physical books. So it's nice to know that if they do need to take a little bit longer from class, they have those Gleim materials until they pass the exam. So that's nice to know as well. But clicking here on the P-led courses, it'll take you to another platform. Here I have just the part 1 course reference, but ideally you'd have 3 separate parts for each one. You'd have part 1, part 2, and part 3. And then across from that, we have your school listing, the semester, and then the course number, because we want to make sure that, especially for instructors teaching, if you're teaching this class multiple semesters, you're able to know which semester and which class you're in. That's important, right? You don't want to set them up in the wrong spot. So clicking here on the part 1, it'll take you into our academic course. And I see that Kathy has been busy with creating some assignments already for summer, which is good. And the layout for the professor platform looks very similar to the student platform. So what I mean by that is you've got all of these links here, all these little tabs and links here in the center. And then over here, you've got upcoming events and then kind of our Gleim social media information here. The only differences for the students are they don't have this create quiz button here. That's obviously a fun instructor tool for you to be able to customize your own assignments. This instructional videos link here is an instructor tool as well. It's a summary of kind of what we're walking through today, sample videos on how to create assignments, look at features in the gradebook, so that even if you do get lost, or if you forget something that we've covered in this demo, or if you and I have gone through separately, it's just a nice link to have to kind of revert back to those different features to watch at your leisure. And then you've got a grades link here, which is your electronic grade book. The students won't have that link either, but everything else will be available here for them. They'll see all the assignments that you post here under active or inactive, or the homework AQs, depending. And then they'll be able to access those self-study materials that I mentioned, the adaptive course, the test bank, the videos, all of that's done here under Study with Gleim. But to walk through the creation of customizing an assignment, I do want to go through that process here. So what will happen is you'll go to the assessment quizzes link here, and you'll start by clicking create quiz. It'll bring up a series of new tabs here in the center. And essentially you're going to progress through them by clicking these blue arrows to the right. So the idea is that we progress you through all these tabs with giving you different options so that you can customize assignments the best way that you want, and you can really give the students what you're wanting them to have for class. The groups tab is the first tab that'll come up. We created that if you're teaching multiple sections of the same class. So if you were teaching a 223 section 1, 2, and 3 in the same semester, you could create the quiz once and have it copy into all groups seamlessly. But for this class, usually it's just the one section in the fall or in the spring. So normally you'll bypass that, and then it moves you to the search tab. So you see here, it'll default to all questions, but you could also toggle and move to questions not found in homework or questions found in the homework assignments. What that means is if you choose to dispense the homework assignments, having not found in homework is like having a separate instructor only bank that you can use to customize your assignments here. Once you've decided which question bank you want to use, you'll then start by picking your study units. Those steps are outlined here. So let's say we were picking filing requirements just for the week. We would then click find topics. It breaks them into subunits. So if you wanted to focus on something specific, like only filing status and filing requirements, you could do that. Or you could do select all, and it'll pick all of those units for you, followed then here by step 4, which is find questions. And it takes a moment, but it loads all of those same questions. You're still here on the search tab, and you see that you've got 100 questions to scroll through for just study unit 1 alone. So we want to try to give a large bank of questions for you to use so that you can find ones that you feel appropriate, or just give a large bank in general. And then you have the option to do a keyword search. So if you're looking for something specific, you can type that in here. You have the option to scroll down through with reading each question and the answer options and selecting those questions individually. Or if you didn't want to sort through 100 questions, you have the option to type a number here, let's say 30, click select MCQ questions for me. And now you see our question pool selected as 30, and we've got 30 selected questions here as well. So you have the option to either, cherry pick your questions or have us randomly pick based on narrowing down those topics initially. If you're happy with the questions that are here, it'll give you an option to then read all of those questions while also providing the explanations for the correct answer and the incorrect answers. So with Gleim, we definitely provide that feature for faculty and for students. We want to make sure that we're providing thorough explanations so that the students are really understanding the questions and why the answer is correct, why the answer is wrong, further promoting their knowledge and learning on those topics. So if we're happy with what's here, we'll continue to progress forward, and then we're on the type tab, which is how the assignment is delivered. The first 2 options are an online delivery, meaning that it's delivered here through the Gleim platform. Students take it through the platform, and it's all graded and put into our electronic gradebook here. However, you also have the option to do a printed quiz. So if you elect to do a printed quiz option, your printed quiz options will pop up here, and then all these actual steps are disabled. So from there, you're pretty much done. Easy peasy. With the online delivery, if you opt for a standard quiz, every student will have the same 30 questions. You can randomize that order here on one of these later tabs, but everyone will still have those same 30. Whereas if you opt for a pooled quiz, it means that every student is going to have a different set of questions. So if, for example, I was wanting a 20 question quiz, it would pull 20 questions out of my 30. So then my 20 questions on my quiz would be different from Kathy's, different from Jacob's, and so on and so forth. So we give you the option to do both of those. I'm going to leave it set to standard for our demo today and move into the time tab, which is where I can then set my start date, my end date, my time limit for students. Do they complete it in one sitting? And here's the randomized question order and answers. So it'll default to the day and time that you're creating, but you can of course change that if you want to by clicking the calendar to change the date and the clock. Same thing with the deadline. And then it defaults to 30 minutes, but if you wanted to change and give them, say, an hour to take the assignment, which would be 2 minutes per question, which is about even with prometric testing time for the EA, you could toggle that. Clock continues to run means that once they log in, they have an hour from the time they opened it to complete it. If you change it to the clock will pause, they can come in and out. So if they come in, they exhaust 10 minutes and decide, oh, this is too hard, I didn't study, they can clock back out, come back in, and they'll still have the 50 minutes remaining. So you have the option to toggle that as well. There's your yes and no to randomize. And then once you move to the grades tab, you can give them up to 10 attempts. And it's important to note that with the standard quiz, it'll be those same 30 questions. So it'll randomize the order, but the questions won't change. Whereas with a pooled quiz, if we had elected 20 out of 30, I would see 20 questions initially. And then when I logged in on attempt 2, I may see 10 old and 10 new. It's going to rotate through those 30 questions. Can students view their grades? I think we want them to see how they did, at least their score, right? So yes, show grades at completion, which will then ask a new option. Do you want them to see their review sessions? And the review sessions are what we looked at here on our selected questions tab, those explanations. So if we want them to be able to see these after they've exhausted their attempts, then we'll want to go ahead and say, yes, let's do that immediately after they're done or starting on a specific date. And depending on what you're creating for them, maybe a homework or practice, you may be more lenient, have them see it immediately after they're done. Something like a midterm, a final, a quiz, something with higher grades or stakes, you may have starting on a specific date. So say maybe after the quiz closes. So you have the option to make those decisions as well. If it's immediately after completion and you have multiple attempts, do you want after the first or after all? And then you have the option to say for all answers or correct answers only. So as you can see, we give more and more options based on what you're selecting to make sure that you're really wanting what is your idea of your assignment as you're creating this here. And then your final step is the save option. You'll need to just make a name for your quiz or your assignment. Do you want to password protect your quiz? Yes or no? And then publish, you kind of always want to make sure it's published unless you are creating a pop quiz or if you're maybe creating something that you don't want the students to see. The reason that I say that is because if you don't publish it, that means the students won't see it. So right here, I just created this sample quiz and it's open and active for students. So when they log in, they'll see they've got module 2, module 1, sample 1. They've got 30 questions. This is how long they have to take it. And then this little green eye means it's open. If I were to click this and unpublish it, it's removed from the active and then it's here under the inactive, which is where the professors can see it only. So if there's a red eye, it's never open and made available to the students. Green eyes will be open so the students can see it. And the system will move the assignments back and forth based on the active or inactive. So these deadlines are July 20 or July 31st rather. After that time, both of these assignments will move to inactive, but that means the students will still be able to see their taken quizzes. So they can't take it. Obviously, they can only take assignments when they're open. But if you had elected to provide them with a review session, for example, so they can see their answers and explanations, even if it's under inactive, it'll put a plus sign here for the students. When they click that, it'll then show their score and they can always go back in and see those review sessions. So it won't be removed from them by any means. We have a tab here now for a printed assessment quiz. So if you create your printed assignments, those will display separately from active and inactive. And these will actually be seen by the instructor only. There'll be a little print icon over here where you'll be able to print them under this screen. And then when we had created the assignment, the first step was asking for the question pool. Do you want to use all questions, questions not found in homework? This is the homework option, which you can either generate or not generate. So clicking here on this link, if you click to generate the homework quizzes, it'll automatically generate 2 quizzes per study unit. And you can see here, each quiz is 20 questions drawn from a bank of 30. So they're pooled quizzes. It gives the students 10 attempts, one easy click there will automatically populate those under the homework AQs here. And then the students have the ability to take those in addition to whatever you've already custom created here for them. So those are all options that are sort of built into the course, having those preset assignments there. If you didn't want to custom create assignments, you could just have those clicked and generated easily. And then the students also have the built-in coursework, so to speak, from their review course and from their test prep, which they can also use to study for the assignments that you create here under active and inactive. So if they go into the review course, the first thing that it might ask them is to agree, obviously, to policies and procedures. And then it'll ask about setting up their study plan. Throughout our course, we have these little recommendations or light bulbs that kind of guide them through the course and encourage them to use all portions of the course. So here we recommend you set up a study plan. They can do that, or they can bypass that and always set it up later. But it'll guide them in green so that they use all portions of the course, meaning they're going to be using the book online, the audios, the flashcards, the videos. We really want them to get a well-rounded study approach for the class and for the exam. But nothing is set in stone in our course. So if they decide to, not start with unit 1 and hop to unit 9, they can do that. But every study unit will ask them to start with what we call a baseline quiz, just kind of assessing their knowledge in that area. Here we explain what that is. If they skip that diagnostic or baseline quiz, they won't be presented with it again, but it won't disrupt the adaptive course technology with figuring out what they need to study and what they don't. So they can skip that and the system will still adjust based on how they do in the testing portion with their adaptive assignments. But once they've taken that, they'll move into all of these different areas here, the learning, the testing. It keeps track of all of their performance for them. And then we've got some extras here as well. So, and the learning aspect, you've got your book online. So they could read the book online instead of the physical book if they want. They could watch their videos. They have audios, they have flashcards. So this is all a way to present the topics. From here, they'll then move into the testing portion, which is where their adaptive quizzes are found. And those are similar to the custom assessment quizzes that we just walked through, where they'll log in, they'll take the quiz, it's set in prometric testing conditions. So they don't get any answers or feedback until the end, or they have the option to go into their test prep. And the test prep acts like a student version of the assessment quiz in that they can create study sessions where they get answers right away, or practice sessions where they get answers and explanations at the end, but they can select specific units, which is what we just saw a moment ago. So see here, we have filing requirements. If they click down and they only wanted to focus on filing status and requirements, they could just look at those questions and customize this for their own studies. There's also an option here under customized exam options where they can select questions they've never seen, questions they've missed. So there's a lot of really great features for not only professors, but for students with studying for the exam as well. And then we also want to make sure that we're providing lots of performance tracking for them so they can see how they do. And then any extras that they might find from the course, again, if they wanted to set their study planner, they can take notes with the videos. And then we also have a quick reference guide, glossary of terms. And then the course concepts for every unit is kind of nice because it summarizes all of the main points of each unit. So here, this is broken into 3 pages, just kind of highlighting some things in general. Whereas if you were to look at the actual outline itself for the study unit, it could be anywhere from 9 to 12 pages based on content. So it's just kind of a lot of different ways that we present the material in short, concise, bite-sized learning portions, but then also making sure that we're providing those thorough explanations as well. And then the quick reference guide will be in their book, but they also have this here in case they wanted to refer to it, which is where they're going to have all the information that they would need as far as, adjusted amounts, schedules, exemptions, credits, all the stuff they need to basically memorize, right, Kathy? So they got to write it all down as soon as they get into Prometric, so they know all that information and they can use it to answer those questions. But this is all presented here in the platform, and they're able to hop back and forth between this self-study portion into the review menu, return to their professor led, and after they're done studying, they could then easily come in and take module 1 and module 2 quiz. So the only other feature I would maybe kind of show, since we've looked at the course and setting things up, would be the grade book itself, so that you can track and monitor everything that's done here in the platform. The adaptive assignments in the review course will filter into the grade book. The homework and the customized assessment quiz will filter into the grade book. The only thing that won't is anything that they set up on their own in the test prep to practice. So if we look here at grades and click view grade book, it'll ask which you want to view. So all the customized assignments will be here under assessment quizzes, and then all of the adaptive review material will be here under review course. So if we checked the boxes, say 1 and 2, and then clicked by student, it'll display the student names vertically and then all of their scores horizontally. So we can see here how they did. And then in the assessment portion, it'll actually, you have the option to extend deadlines for individual students and change dates if you need to. So if you need to allot additional time, or if you need to extend deadlines across from each student, those items are clickable. So if I needed more than 120 minutes, I could adjust that. The column names are also adjustable or clickable, so you can alter for all students if you needed to. And then these grades are also available to export, since this is operating outside of the traditional learning management platform. So those grade options to export are here, and you can export in either a spreadsheet or Excel so that everything's able to be uploaded if it needs to be. And then we also have a performance tracking report, or a color-coded performance report. So that will highlight how students are doing in each area. So if you looked at, say, the adaptive assignments and you saw that there was one particular study unit, let's say tax credits, was showing in red. If you wanted to create a customized assignment just on that particular area, because everyone in the class was struggling with it, you'd have the option to do that. So this performance tracking is available for the adaptive assignments, the customized assignments as well. You can toggle the grade book to show whether you want the highest attempt, the average, the lowest grade. Those are all things that you can toggle here in the grade book. And then the student progress link itself shows how far they are through our adaptive review program. So ideally, with it being 13 units for part 1, or 14 units now for part 1, since they changed the EA exam, if we were, say, if Courtney was at 8 study units, she'd be showing that she's about 50% through the course. So this is a nice way to just kind of see how much work they've done on their own, if you just wanted to quickly look and see how much progress they've done in the course. And then if you needed to look at a particular student closer, you're able to click their name and it expands and actually shows you in quite a bit of detail how much time they spent in the videos, the multiple choice, the diagnostic. Did they do the adaptive? I accessed one outline and then did nothing else. I've done pretty terrible so far, but all of these features are in here and available so that you can really focus in, especially if you've got a student that's struggling and asking questions. It's really nice to be able to kind of take a look and focus in on what they might need help with. So all of these things are available, and we're able to kind of set this up really easy and quickly. So that's, I think, all that I have to show. So I'll stop talking so that Kathy can maybe add some other stuff in if she needs to, since you've taught it for the past few years and are definitely more knowledgeable about the content than I am. Kathy, anything to add?
I'm going to unmute myself. No, you actually, that was perfect. And that's exactly what I do. And in setting those, the quizzes up for each one of the modules. And I think it probably would be, Jacob, do you do you want me to just share my screen and go into the, um, to show the syllabus and all of that, or how do you
Sure.
want me to do that? Okay,
Yeah, sounds good to me.
let me make sure I've got,
Oh, and thank you, Courtney, for that that in-depth explanation for us, and I'm certain that will be really helpful for
probably,
instructors teaching this course in the future.
Yeah.
yeah, it'll probably kind of, when I get into this, it'll help. Let me make sure here it is.
Yeah, the instructional video link that I mentioned is much more condensed. It just kind of talks about setting up the platform and the assignments and things. But I think it was nice to kind of go into quite a bit of detail. And of course, if anyone has questions as they start, I'm always here to help answer those as well.
Thank you, Courtney. We appreciate your support.
Okay, so I have my screen here. Can you see it?
I can, thank you.
Okay, great. So on the syllabus,
I think we want to work from the master, correct?
oh yeah, sorry, I think I'm in the wrong one.
It's okay. I can check on my side to make sure that I actually have you in the correct place.
Yep, I'm here. I just
Okay.
picked the wrong one, sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
Been working in that other one trying to get it set up. But okay, so in the syllabus we have the required text and materials, and we have the enrolled agent bundle listed here. And then I've kind of put a little blurb in here about the Gleim professor-led enrolled agent system and explained a little bit about that. And then I put, I have a note here in purple to insert the link to the Gleim classroom. And that is what Courtney sends out. And she sent that to me for the summer class. And she sends a document that is something that can be, that the students actually have from her, that is instructions as to how to go in and purchase the Gleim materials and actually link directly to the appropriate class, because she does this after she sets up the classroom for an individual instructor. So once you have that material, then you can link that in the files and then insert that link to the Gleim classroom. So the students won't have to go any further to get the actual link. I also do in the announcements, in a welcome announcement, and I don't have that here, but in a welcome announcement, I reiterate that information and just tell the students, obviously, welcome to the class, but also here is the information to set up your Gleim classroom. And in the syllabus also, we have the assignments listed down here, and these are the quizzes that I have already set up in Gleim. And there's one for each one of the modules. The last module is the final exam, which is I set up in 3 parts, one to correspond with each one of the parts for each one of the books. There are also 2 discussions that are required, one that's just an introductory discussion and one that corresponds to the final week, which is one that kind of wraps up a little bit of everything that we've learned and just kind of a scenario for the students to respond to. And I also set up the introductory live meeting so that the students have that in their assignments, so that it's something that is a little more, stands out a little bit more to them, even though that's not required that they come to that, but it is something that's good for them to keep on their mind. And the grade calculation is listed here with the point spread for the each one of the module quizzes, the two discussion boards, and the final exams and the grading scale. The instructor resources are listed in the modules. The instructor guide is listed here. And this, in the checklist before the semester begins, talks about the third-party tools. And this again goes through the use of the Gleim professor-led system. And this talks about the representative and setting up the instructor account with the current materials. So Courtney is going to be at this point in time, as a representative for anyone that would be teaching at any of the Ivy Tech campuses. So she would be setting up the course, and I've got the email address here, and she's a contact for the instructors. And this just lets the instructors know basically how to get that set up. And this is that student order link that I just mentioned that she is going to set up. Once she has the class set up, then she's going to send you the student order link. And it's a welcome letter from Gleim and includes the instructions for the students to purchase the materials. And it includes the link for specific to each instructor's classroom. And I post that in the welcome announcement. I post it in like a week 1 announcement. I post it several places so that they don't have any issues in knowing exactly how to get that material there. Personalizing the syllabus is pretty standard. Just going in and making sure that you are checking due dates and personalizing the content. We do want to make sure that we include the links, the link for the Gleim, checking the due dates, making sure those are correct. Everything is all of the quizzes and exams are taken in the Gleim platform, and that's one of the things that takes a little while for the students to kind of get acclimated to, that they don't have that. It's a little different than some of the other things, some of the other platforms that they've used, like using Connect or any one of those things where they're just clicking a button and it's taking them to those things. They actually have to go out, go into Gleim and do these things, which is very easy. It's just a little bit different. So that's something that constantly kind of have to remind the students of how this works, and just a little reinforcement. Goes over the welcome announcement here, and just want to make sure that you're communicating all of the things to the students. And there is a huge amount of material that's covered in this class, and I think that that's one of the things to kind of just attack at the start. You know, I know there's a lot of material here, but these are all things that you're going to have to know for the enrolled agent exam, and try to reassure the students that this is something you're going to work through together. And the Gleim material is absolutely wonderful, and it is something that is they're not going to get anything any better to work together with that external platform, and your help being there to get through this. I always do a weekly announcement touching base on exactly what you're going through that week. This is a great time to post IRS bulletins, links to IRS things that they maybe aren't seeing other places, so that they've got just another link to something else that they can look at. Communication, I think, is just totally key in this class. So these are ideas of things to do for the weekly announcements to kind of keep them going, because this class has been approved for a 16-week platform. So that's kind of how that's set up there. Looking at a sample module. Each one of the modules has an overview of what you're going to be covering in that module. Module 1 does also have a discussion, and this is just an introduction. This module and the last one is the only one that has discussion in it. Learning activities. Again, each one of the learning activities I link directly to, and this says Lime Classroom. This actually just links them to the to Glime so that they can go up here and log in, so that they can they don't have to pull up another screen to do that. They can just click on this and go to the login and be able to do that. Every one of the learning activities just tells them everything that they need to do. I stress really heavily to watch the videos and the audios. And one of the things that I've always talked to the students about is just figure out how you learn best, because that's, I think everybody has a different learning style, and utilize absolutely everything you can. If your time is limited, figure out how you learn best and utilize the things that you learn best from. I also have a cyber cafe discussion board that's not in any way required, but it's someplace where they can go and discuss things among themselves. They can post things, and I think it's good to keep reminding them of that, because sometimes it's just good to interact with other students, especially when it's something where they're going to be taking this test, so that they can study tips. I've always, every time I've taught this class, I've had people say, do you have any study tips? Do you have any tips on how to study, because there's such a massive amount of material? And I've always given them things that I've used in the past, but I've always pushed it out to the students as well. Hey, do any of you have anything that you're finding that is really just helping you out? Post this in the cyber cafe so that, it'll help everyone, because I think that there's no better way to learn and to help people than to teach and to help them yourself. So that's just one of the things that I think is good to keep reminding students of. And then in each module, there's the quiz, and this just goes over the instructions. Again, stressing the fact that the module is taken in Glime, and it's graded in Glime, and it's manually transferred to the Canvas gradebook. And I always tell them in an email that, I transfer those grades once a week, usually. Each instructor is going to do that how they want to, but I do it once a week. But they are manually transferred to the Canvas gradebook. And this does state too, they only need to complete the quiz in Glime. Another question I always get, do I have to do something in Canvas? No, you just need to complete it in Glime. That's just something that's a little difficult for them to get used to, because that's just not something that they're accustomed to. And then the last thing is just next steps, a reflection on what we've talked about in this module, and then looking ahead to the next module. This is what you're going to be looking at. There's always a link here, I think in almost every one, just to an IRS website of some things that will, some publications or something from the IRS. It's kind of some material on what you're going to be looking at for the next one. Assignments, we've already gone through that. There's really not any other assignments other than just the readings. Those are listed in the modules. There's a lot of readings. A lot of chapters are covered especially in an 8-week course in the summertime. A lot of chapters are covered, and completing the quizzes. And then there's 2 discussion boards, and then the final exam. So there's not a lot of other assignments in the class to complete. But that's kind of how it is structured. So I think that covers most of the things on the list.
I think so. Excellent presentation, Kathy. Thank you so much. All right. Courtney, do you have anything else you would like to add before we move towards closing this webinar out?
I don't think so. The only other thing that I was going to mention is that, and I think I mentioned before, if you have any questions at all, Kathy kind of mentioned this. I'm the instructor's tech support. I'm your contact person. I provide all the desk copies. So any questions for anything like that, I can definitely help with. And I think I had mentioned that I would put that information here in the chat on how to reach me. So I'm actually going to do that now. Normally we have a new edition. Oh, that is what I wanted to mention. We have a new edition of the material that comes out every year in March. And that's because the exam changes every year, of course, with all the new tax information. So the new edition typically comes out in March, and then that is valid from the exams being taken from May 1st all the way through until the end of February. So like this summer class is using our new 2021 edition. The fall class, we use our new 2021 edition. And in the spring, if the spring course is offered, spring becomes a little hurdle like because we have the new edition release. So in the spring, it's a little bit more complicated because they'll use the current edition, and then once we release the new, they'll use the other newer edition because they still have the ability to take the exam in January and February. So it's nice for them to be able to have that content and information, but during those off months or the closed months, which is March and April, we don't want them to study the old information and then be ready to sit for the exam in May. So that sometimes becomes a little bit problematic for the instructors because we have to have our release in March. We have to wait for the windows to close. And it's trying to do a really interesting dance with figuring out when to balance moving to that new edition. And we actually did that this spring. Kathy will attest to that. We had them do parts 1 and 3 and then waited for part 2 since that was the larger, bigger part. So we kind of maybe went out of order in that sense instead of going sequential 1, 2, 3. But there's nothing that says that you have to do it in sequential order. And that made the most sense for the spring to make sure that the part 1 and 3 were adequately covered. They were able to still take that in the current window at that time if they needed to. And then once the new edition released, we had the new book come out, and I contacted all the students to make sure that the books were sent to them. They can get materials from the bookstore as well. So if they want to go through the bookstore, they can. They'll accept financial aid, which I know is great. Unfortunately, we don't accept financial aid. So students have the option to go through the bookstore. Our link that we send will probably be less expensive, but again, we don't have the financial aid option. So students have different options to purchase their materials, whether it's directly with us or through the bookstore. But bottom line, we'll make sure that they have the most up-to-date information with whatever edition is being used at that time. And if there's any changes as far as content goes, I try to make sure to send that information to the instructors as soon as possible with any updates. And if we do, like if things get changed a lot, we usually try to do a change log. So if something was in unit 7 before and now it's in unit 12, we tell you where that's gone. Thankfully, that really hasn't happened in the EA. We're experiencing that with CPA right now, but that is something that we'll always do if that does occur for enrolled agent. That's all.
Well, thank you for clarifying that, Courtney. All right, awesome. Kathy, anything else before we close up?
No, I don't think so.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you once again, everyone, for joining us. If you have any additional questions about Accounting 223, feel free to contact Courtney for any Gleim-related issues. Feel free to ask Kathy about any questions about delivering the course, and you can always ask me any questions if you just have any questions about teaching on IvyOnline in general, or Kevin Vineski, your faculty lead at the moment, or whomever is your faculty lead. Thank you, Kathy, for the work that you put into this project and for your demo today. And thank you, Courtney, for the demo that you gave us of Gleim.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.